right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for January 9th, 2023. I will call the meeting to order, and just for the record, advise that both Councillor Sorensen and Councillor Bruin are not able to attend today. And ask for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council adopts the agenda as amended to allow for the opportunity to undertake closed session items prior to the timing of delegations at 5 p.m.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 3, public hearings. There are none. Item 4, adoption of the minutes. Item 4.1, minutes, regular meeting of council, December 19th, 2022. Mr. Thibault.
Those minutes are before council for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Any questions or concerns arising? Councillor Rudd.
None, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of council on December 9th, 2022 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, item 5, business arising minutes. There are none. Item 6, bylaws. Item 6.1, proposed Taber Municipal Police Commission bylaw 1-2023. Mr. Thibault.
I believe that Mr. John McDonald is here to speak to this one. Administration was looking for all 3 readings, and this is an annual occurrence.
All right, thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, nice to be here again. Sorry.
There we go.
We had a meeting with the commission to deal with the policy manual, the changes in the policy manual, conducted some business that we had to change with the bylaw. And we present this today for your consideration and review, and any questions need to be answered.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Rudd.
No questions and no objection to what's in the document, Mr. Mayor, but just I wanted to draw to council's attention the meeting that you and I attended on December 5th with the Minister Mike Ellis of the new Public Safety Ministry, right, and his proposed amendments to the Police Act, which will, I guess, eventually require amendments here. But I think, John, you're aware of what went down at that meeting, and the announcement that there'll be 2 provincial appointees to the commission, and there's a requirement for the police service to produce a diversification plan. And then the third item was to remove the public complaints from local authority to whatever they're going to establish provincially to take care of those matters. So just thought council should be aware of that.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rudd. All right, any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives first reading to the Taber Municipal Police Commission bylaw 1-2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm prepared to make the second motion.
All right.
I move the council gives second reading to Taber Municipal Police Commission bylaw 1-2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Someone prepared to make the third required motion. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Make a motion that council agrees to proceed to third and final reading of Taber Municipal Police Commission bylaw 1-2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Someone prepared to make the fourth required motion. Councillor Rudd.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor. The council gives third and final reading to the Taber Municipal Police Commission bylaw 1-2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your confidence. I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, on to item 7.1, proposed changes to Taber Municipal Police Commission Policy Manual. Mr. Thibault.
Again, it looks like Mr. McDonald is going to present, and this is also an annual occurrence.
All right, thank you. Mr. McDonald.
This is done annually, a review, and we struck the committee at the commission level to review it, and we asked specifically for items for inclusion to make sure that everybody in the community understands what they can be part of and what the commission stands for. So we're ahead of the game, ahead of the curve, I believe, with Mr. Ellis's position from the ministry. But anyways, you have the police manual, policy manual in front of you, and I'm welcoming any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. McDonald, you struck a committee, did you? A tremendous amount of work, correct?
They did an excellent amount of work. They had, we have good people on the commission committees. These individuals took their own time to put together and read the policy manual, and we had objectives to look at. Inclusion. We want to make sure the community is looked at. With the protection, safety. These are all parts of our goals. They came back with a report. I felt it was important that we had a special meeting in December to go through it, to pass it, so you, council, would have it on your first day back to deal with it, because it's important to us that it goes ahead.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Well, in support of your very accurate assertion that there's good people on the commission, I have a proposal to make, and that would be Mr. McDonald and council at 2.1 of the document, section 2.1, and that deals with making yourself ineligible to continue service on the commission, which includes a conviction for criminal code offense. Then you would be required to step down. And my only suggestion is that there be a requirement that commission members would be required to report a criminal code charge or conviction from another jurisdiction, because you may not be aware of it here in Tabor, and it would be a requirement for them to come and report that. And that's contained in other bylaws and such, that you have to have a self-reporting system. And I'm thinking maybe at section 1 of your appendix A, because and I suggest that one because that's the point where you're accepting applications for the police commission. And it talks in there about a police information check. So, something along the lines of, if there was adverse information on that police information check, then it would be at the discretion of the chair whether that application would continue or not. And that would include a criminal code conviction and, et cetera, whatever else is on there. Just that we're clear and have the direction there.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question. So then those kinds of incidents wouldn't show up on a criminal or information check?
Well, when you check, they would, yes. And that might not be a bad idea for the commission to annually run everybody's name, just to be sure. But the requirement to self-report would look after it as well. Then it'd become a matter of code of ethics to abide by that.
Due diligence. Maybe our due diligence to report such a situation to the commission, to the chair or to the vice chair.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question as well. But isn't a police information check, it's required to sit on the commission, is it not?
For the original application, yes. I don't believe we have to do one every year.
No. And so, Councillor Rudd, is that what you're saying, is that we should do one every year? They should do one every year, or that? Yeah, I'm confused. I thought it was already required. So
Yeah, it is required at the outset, but what are the terms? 4 years or 3
It could
years,
be
depending?
2, 3 years, yep.
Yeah, depending on what cycle you're in. So during that term of service, then, if there was an issue of a law matter, then my amendment would just require that person to come forward with it and say, this is what we're dealing with. And rather than, checking every year because you don't trust them,
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. I just wasn't sure.
All right, any other questions arising? All right, Councillor Rudd, you're prepared to put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I think there's a recommendation already for a motion. But just let me quickly zoom down here where I was at.
May I speak? to this
Absolutely.
first?
You
Yeah,
bet.
please.
So thank you very much, Councilor Rudd. There's two issues that you raised that I think are compelling. The first one that you raise is the issue of during the application process, what is the background check that goes into someone becoming a commission member? And I think it's accurate that we do conduct, at the request of within the bylaw and within the policy manual, a criminal record check a police information check associated to the background of applicants that come to the commission, and those people are vetted. So I honestly think that that piece is actually captured in the initial process. The second piece that you bring is not captured in the policy, and I think it is worthy of consideration by the commission and council. And that is that if someone is convicted of or charged with a criminal offense in another jurisdiction other than Tabor, there's no way of knowing that that occurs. There's no process within our systems that enables that other than through media or so a self-report, I think, would be something that should be put in place. And I think it should be on charge, that when someone is charged with a criminal offense, then if it's a member of the commission, they need to report to the chair. And if it's the chair, they should report to the vice chair. And I believe that Carrie Van Ham, Ms. Van Ham, has some wording that may work applicable to section 12.1 of the policy manual. Something to the effect of, so under section 2.112, so that's page 6 of 51, if anyone wanted to refer, a friendly amendment that Chair McDonald has read and thinks is a good idea, is to put in that a commission, once appointed to the commission, a commission member charged with a criminal offense is obliged to report that charge to the chair of the commission, and if it is the chair of the commission, to the vice chair. And I think, sir, with that wording and amendment to the policy manual, that it would meet the ends of what you've asked for in a concise manner.
All right, thank you, Councilor Rudd. Yep.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, I think that's a good thought process there, and that's where an amendment such as that would properly land. So I would make that motion in the language that Ms. Van Ham has in front of her, correct?
All right.
Shall we have it
I
read
guess,
in?
I think, yeah, just in all fairness, that sounds like we're all on the same page here. Just so long as we've got that actual wording, Councilor Rudd, I think it would be, the administrators acknowledging they're in need of that also. So are you able to pass that on for Councilor Rudd to read accordingly?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'll make a motion then that the Police Commission Policy Manual will be amended as follows, that it's section 12.1, wording be added that a commission member charged with a criminal offense shall report that charge to the chair of the commission, if the chair, to the vice chair.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. Question, Councilor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not opposed to the addendum to the Police Commission Manual. I think we should vote on that, but I think the policy manual in total should go back to the commission for approval, because we have that, don't have the authority to do that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. I was just going to ask that question, actually. Thank you, Councilor, Mr. Tebow, you had a question also.
I was just going to point out the exact same thing, that it should go back to the commission and that we could potentially approve something as amended, but the amendment would have to go back to there. So I don't know what you want to do with the wording exactly. but
Yeah,
that's
that's
what I
it.
was
I'm
pointing
glad Councilor Beckering brought that up. I had the same question. I'm not sure if we could actually go that route with that format. But again, there is a motion on the table suggesting just that. So we're okay with that format for now. But that does have to go back to be written up accordingly, I believe. Councilor Rupp?
Well, rather than a motion, then should it be a recommendation?
I think that can be done also if you want to withdraw your motion.
Add
Yeah.
to that it go back to the commission for that piece of work to be done. And
That's
then
maybe
presented to
the
council.
most effective, efficient way, I would suggest, yes. So you're wishing to withdraw your original motion?
I'll withdraw that original motion
All
and
right.
use that same wording,
you.
making a recommendation that that be the amendment. And
Okay.
shall I put it in the record?
Sure, that'll work, yeah.
Okay. I make the following recommendation, that the Police Commission Policy Manual be returned to the Police Commission to amend section 12.1 or to discuss amending section 12.1, that if a commission member is charged with a criminal offense, that they shall report that charge to the chair of the commission, and if the chair, to the vice chair.
All right, so we're looking at it in the form of a motion, correct? All right, we do have a motion on the table with that recommendation. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
All right, item 7.2, proposed renewal recognition of service, elected officials and board members. Mr. Tebow.
This policy has come forward just as part of a regular review. There is nothing that administration is recommending to change, and there was a little bit of a background done to just see that we're in line with other policies in other places. And Ms. Van Ham can speak to any questions, should there be any.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, seeing none, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the recognition of service, elected officials, and board members policy C-3 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3, electronic signage policy renewal. Mr. Tebow.
Again, this is another renewal, no changes being recommended. Mr. Brian Martin is available if there's any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Rudd?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion that council approves the electronic signage policy renewal, PS-REC-5 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.4, fee assistance policy renewal. Mr. Tebow.
I'll repeat, same verse as the first. No changes to this policy, and Brian available if there's any questions.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bickering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this particular policy, Mr. Tebow, is it being implemented? Is it being used by anyone, or is there some interest in it, or can you give us an answer to that?
I'm not familiar enough with the use, so I'll have to get Brian to come up and speak to that.
Thank you.
Yes, this policy is in use through the FCSS. They administer it for us.
All right, Councillor Bickering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. But Brian, is there an uptake? Do you know?
Yeah, there is some individuals using it around town, yes.
Can you give us any idea on approximately how many?
No, sorry.
Would it be a 10
I was
or 100
worried
or-
you would catch me on this, and you did. I don't know that answer right now, sorry.
All right, any other questions arising? Mr. Tebow.
If you desire, Councillor Beckering, administration can go away, find that answer, and bring it back at a later date for you, just via email or something.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the fee assistance policy renewal PS-REC-13 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.5, ice surface allocation policy renewal. Mr. Tebow.
This is for Brian again, and no recommendations of any changes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Martin.
Yeah, no changes.
Oh, all right, okay.
I
Thank you.
just didn't want to sit down in case you
Okay.
had a question.
Okay. And no other questions arising. All right, someone prepared to make the motion. Councillor Bickering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion then that council approves the ice surfaces allocation policy renewal PS-REC-8 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.6, proposed Lower Lagoon sludge removal projects. Mr. Tebow.
Mr. Gary Shear will speak to this one. Any questions arising?
Thank you, Mr. Shear.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. This has been a plaguing problem down the lower lagoon. This is how we get all of our effluent sent out to the irrigation acres for irrigation purposes. We've been, the past 10, 12 years, have been struggling with sludge and organics coming into our pump station, cleaning it out. What we really need to do is clean out as much as we can. So we come forward with a bit of a proposal for council. It's going to cost a little bit of money. There may be a screen involved too. That may be a capital project. So that's why we struggled. Should it be operating? Should it be capitalized? So we did have it in the operating budget, so we decided to bring it forth as a capital amendment. And I'm sure everybody's asking, do we have money left over? So I'll leave that up to Mr. Orwa in the capital budget.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising for Mr. Shear or Mr. Orwa?
I wish I had all this money in my pocket, but
All
I
right.
think from the 2023 capital budget, we still have about 957,000 not used.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Yes, well, thank you for that financial answer. And I had a question about the map that was with this, Gary. It just shows I can't tell exactly if that's the whole portion or.
That's probably about 10% of it. That's just where the intake is, where we
Okay.
pump out of. That's what I'm hoping to get cleaned out. To do all the sludge removal in the lower lagoon, probably $500,000, if not more.
Okay, so and
That'll suffice for now.
yeah.
And we'll have others come forward.
Okay, so if you keep that section clean,
We need to keep that section clean.
You're-
Yes,
so next time it needs cleaning, you just do the same section and you're.
yes. That's
fine
what was
again.
done. I think it was when EPCOR days were here. I think it was 12 years ago. That's
Yeah.
what they did. But they just moved it off to the side. So there again, you're just causing yourself more problems by not doing something with it, right? So we're asking council to hopefully pass the project.
All right, I think just a question, Mr. Shear, what happens to the sludge? What do we do with that?
We do with a land application. It could go on irrigated acres,
Okay,
things like
okay.
that. Yeah.
As a
As
fertilizer
a
format?
fertilizer.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
as good fertilizer. Lots of farmers love that.
Okay, great, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was going to ask the same question. Councilor Rudd, thanks for pointing it out, because I remember the days when you did a whole cell, it was about $200,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's about $500,000.
How many cells do we have?
You actually have 3 main cells in your irrigated, and there's a 4th in the upper lagoon, and then this will be number 5.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make the motion? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council directs administration to add the Lower Lagoon sludge removal project to the 2023 capital budget in the amount of $70,000.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.7, proposed South Raw Water Cell Cleaning Project. Mr. Thibault.
Again, we've arranged the agenda so Mr. Shear could sit and speak to this one for you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shear.
Yeah, I wasn't going anywhere. So, yes, there again, another critical maintenance job. We cleaned up the north one last year, but we took away from our operating fund to do so. This year, we're looking at a bigger area because it is a bigger cell, lots more to do in there. But we actually might have to purchase some aeration equipment with this project because there is aeration for treatment in those cells. So that could be the other $10,000. We're not quite sure yet till we actually pump everything down, clean out the cell, and then check on the equipment. So asking council for an additional $60,000 to come out of the capital budget again for that project.
All right, thank you. We need some Mr. Orwell clarification on this.
I think we got it.
All right, just checking. just checking. All right, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question for Mr. Shear. So the other one that was cleaned out, the other cell, was that effective? So
It actually was very effective. If you remember the past couple of years, we've had trouble with discoloration in the water. Well, now that was based off manganese in our system. It's in our sludge. Once we took care of the north cell, you're not seeing any of that discoloration anymore. And we're solely running off of the north cell for raw water content now. We've had to close off the south because of the manganese content, and it's a lot better water clarity for the town.
Excellent. So is there any cost savings there as far as treatment is concerned?
No, we need to get that sludge and manganese out of the lower part of the raw water cells, and that seemed to clear up the issues. There again, it should happen about every 10, 12 years, but nobody can remember the last time they were ever cleaned out.
So it's time to do it.
It's time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chair, I noticed on both these projects, both the lagoon and this one, is an estimate from a
Yes.
local company. You're going to vote for tenders.
We asked for additional pricing, but we just wanted council to say that's what it's worth. We're not just pulling a number out of the air, that's for sure.
Okay.
We actually had estimates done.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council directs administration to add the South Raw Water Cell Cleaning Project to the 2023 capital budget in the amount of $60,000.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.8, extension of subdivision TT 19-0-003. Mr. Tebow.
We'll have Mr. Chris Egan and Ms. Selena Newberry come up and speak to this one.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, administration received a extension request for the subdivision TT 19-0-003. It expired a couple years back. The MGA does allow for us to give an extension, and it would be required for them to complete the process.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So they are intending to actually complete this since it did expire, that like they now want to complete this. So like this extension will allow them to finish it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Monica. They have completed a good portion of the work. They just require this to finish. They won't be able to submit anything to land titles without this.
All right, I believe we did get a letter request from the business to go forward, correct? Right, okay, thank you. All right, someone prepared to make a motion on that? Councillor Rudd?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that council approves the extension of subdivision TT 19-0-003 for a one-year period from January 9th, 2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.9, Mr. Tebow's favorite, information for council. Mr. Tebow.
It's actually the standing items that are my favorite.
Oh, sorry. Okay. You're right. Okay, that's coming.
It's coming, I know. I put in front of you the strategic planning document. This document is just a bit of a facelift from the pre-existing 2018 document. So much of that previous document was just brought forward and kind of given a facelift by our administration team. And it contains all the exact same information. It's still relevant to the 2018 as far as our vision, mission, objectives, and our values statements. There was no changes put forward in our strategic planning that we did with Mr. McIntosh at the time. So I brought it forward as information just to show that we did an updated document, and the only update that is in here, other than the background look and feel, is our updated, previously approved council strategic initiatives. So that's what this document is made up of. If there was any changes that council wanted to discuss, we could certainly, administration could go back and take a look at those items, but I believe that the document is still fairly relevant with our strategic initiatives being updated on it. So that's what this item's about.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, does this document publicly available?
It is, yeah. It's on our
And
it's
so
on
it
our
gets
website.
amended at the same, it gets updated?
Correct.
At the same time? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, seeing none, no motion required. On to your actual favorite, Mr. Tebow, standing items.
Thank you, sir. So there isn't any progress to report this week on these items. I know we are getting close on the one item for the accessibility. We're not quite there yet. I believe we're going to wait a little bit on the public engagement piece for the bins being out front versus in the back alley. I know it's being worked on, but we're not rushing to get that out right away. And 43rd Street and 56th Avenue, again, still in progress being worked on, and administration will come back with some probable estimates and things like that before we move forward with that one. So I'll leave it open to council to add any other items they may see fit.
Thank you. Any standing item council requests? Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, I don't have a specific request, but I just wanted to talk about snow removal a little bit and maybe get Gary's input on that. We had a lot of snow over a couple of, or 3 or 4 days. And just listening to people on my beat, they're saying, well, gosh, this wasn't cleaned up and that wasn't cleaned up and look at the ice we got now and such. Just what's going on with that? And I drive around, I see what they're talking about. I don't see it as a problem per se, because that's just winter time, isn't it?
No, that's exactly correct. We kind of had a perfect storm back to back real quick there. You had a melt, which created a bunch of ice, and then 2-3 inches of snow on top of it. And all in all we end up doing is packing that snow down into more ice, and we really can't pick up ice. We can pick up snow, but once it's pounded down into ice, it's really hard to pick up. So what we try to do is go out and even it up. We get out as much. We had all pieces of our equipment out all last week. All the trucks were out. We have to citizens have to realize we only have 1 grader, 2 loaders, and we can't be everywhere all the time. Council set priorities, and we maintain our priority routes.
I see the snow blower out on 50th.
Yep. Yeah, they're starting to clean up. Hopefully the warmer weather will help us out quite a bit by, ensuring that the ice gets melted.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
I actually have the same. I also have heard about snow removal and ice and the bumps and lumps, and so was bringing it forward. But I did notice that a lot of it has been sanded, and so I think that makes as much of a difference as you can make when you're fighting against Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, and I saw that there is some work being done. My other question was, I'm gonna steal yours. It was sidewalks, actually, because I've had residents point out that there are some people that don't seem to have cleared their sidewalks at all, and they were curious about whether that was enforced or not. I did tell them that it was it's a bylaw. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't. Yeah, you can probably go. He's out. That it was a bylaw, and that I wasn't sure exactly how that bylaw was enforced or what the process was, so I'm just bringing it forward.
All right, thank you. Mr. Thibault.
Councillor Firth, I can agree. Administration has fielded quite a few questions around sidewalks and ice and snow removal. So much so that I actually went looking around on various Southern Alberta roasts and toasts that were available, and it seems to be consistent whether you're in Medicine Hat or Lethbridge or Taber. Not trying to conjure up any excuses, but it was pretty consistent, just the way everything happened as far as icing up and items like that. I can pose the question to bylaw services. I don't know what they have or haven't done, but I can certainly ask the chief and again get back via email.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, just to follow up that, what's our snow removal budget looking like? Is it beat up yet, or where are we at?
It's a whole new year, start of a budget, so we are hiring some more equipment, so we're in good shape.
Great, thank you. Any other standing item council requests? All right, seeing none, no further motions required. I'd ask for a motion to move into closed session and reconvene at 5 p.m. for our delegation. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also move.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, if we could reconvene the meeting, please, and moving on to our delegation, item 8.1, delegation from Canada's Premier Food Corridor. Mr. Thibault.
So we've got Mr. Ben Young, that I believe a few of you are familiar with, who will come up and provide us a presentation.
Mr. Ben Young, welcome. How are you doing?
Hello, good to see everyone again.
Same here.
It's been a while. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me tonight to discuss an exciting initiative. So I'm going to talk about the future of Canada's Premier Food Corridor. So I'll just give a bit of a background for those who might not be as familiar with Canada's Premier Food Corridor. I'm going to say CPFC from now on because it's going to take too long if I keep saying Canada's Premier Food Corridor. This initiative started about 4 years ago, actually right here in this building, in that conference room behind me here. A couple of economic development professionals from across the region. We met to talk about how we could promote the value-added agriculture industry here in southern Alberta and really focus on that highway corridor between Lethbridge and Taber, the Highway 3. And right from the start, it's been an initiative between the town of Taber, the MD of Taber, Lethbridge County, the town of Coaldale, and Economic Development Lethbridge. And it's been one of those projects that's just been kind of, one of the many initiatives that the economic development professionals in this region have worked on. It's, one of the things that's on the side of your desk. And we've kind of always talked about as a region of really getting some dedicated support and dedicated resources to really push the initiative forward. We've also always had support from Community Futures here in Taber and Southgrow as well. They're kind of advisory capacities, and Community Futures has also developed the website and things like that. So, an active partnership of the economic development professionals here in the region. The Highway 3 Food Corridor is really a natural economic corridor with all the businesses that are part of the value chain located right here in Southern Alberta. And so with that, it's really a natural, also economic development opportunity to build upon those natural strengths we have here. To date, the partners have completed some high-level strategic planning. We've attended events, we've hosted investment tours, we've created an asset map. There's the website, like I said, canadaspremierfoodcorridor.ca. And we've successfully received CARES funding to also do some marketing and promotional activities, mostly through Google Ads and things like that, pushing traffic to the Canada's Premier Food Corridor website. We're right now currently in the process of applying to Prairies Can for funding as well through the provincial government. And that's really why I'm here tonight, is to ask for support from council for $5,000 for the next 3 years to unlock those leveraged funds through the province, through the feds, and through the other municipal partners. So we are asking for $5,000 from the town, from the MD, from the county, from Coaldale. And the city of Lethbridge has approved our ask of approximately $110,000 per year as well. So between the municipal partners, we're getting about $360,000. And then with the federal and provincial government, it's going to be about $1.4 million project over 3 years. There will be a memorandum of understanding developed for the project once we're a little further along with potential Prairies Can and provincial support, just once we've kind of figured out what the grant agreements might look like and things. So within that memorandum of understanding would also lay out some more of the details about roles, responsibilities, how investment inquiries are dealt with, things like that. So we are proposing, like I said, a 3-year funding agreement with the province and the feds for the 4th year of the project, and this now being pushed into 2027 would be really more for wrap up and evaluation of the project. We'd really do an in-depth look of what was the impact, what did we really accomplish with it. We do have some metrics that we're working towards, like number of businesses supported, number of new jobs created, number of events hosted, and things like that. But we will really want to dive deep and talk with the businesses we are working with, see what the impact was, to see what then the business case is to further support the food corridor moving forward with potential maybe industry support, continued maybe government support. We'll just kind of have to really use that 4th year to really determine the value of the project and what it looks like moving forward. I won't go through all the initiatives, but just kind of touch on a few of the things we will work on. And I do believe this is in your package, some of the highlighted initiatives that were part of the initial 2-pager we submitted to Prairies Can. So, one of the major things is industry engagement and support for SME growth. So one of the positions, I'll just back up, there will be 2.5 positions created through this for the 3 years. One of them being the cluster development manager, who will kind of oversee overall management of the project, but also kind of take on the investment attraction piece, the attending events, being the kind of forward face of the initiative externally. And then the second position is also very important, is the industry engagement coordinator. And that person will be full-time dedicated to supporting existing businesses in this region that are in that food industry. And so whether that's helping with labor force, workforce attraction pieces, supporting ongoing initiatives at the town with the MD, with the existing partners. So, not duplicating what is already going on for economic development initiatives you're doing, but potentially helping to enhance support, unlock other support programs, things like that. So like I said, industry engagement's one of the big pieces we're going to work on. There'll be information sessions, things like that. Some of them will be here in Tabor, some will be in Lethbridge, some will be in Coaldale. We'll, between all the partners, figure out what the share of that looks like. Workforce and labor, like I said, promoting opportunities in agri-food, helping SMEs to access programs, working with the different initiatives you have here in the town. Marketing promotion activities, that would be attending events, developing new content online, things like that. What's Grown Here campaign, one of the pieces we're looking at is getting some highway signage along Highway 3, but also like some of the other roads within the region about what's grown here. We're going to have to work with Alberta Transportation on what that looks like. So we kind of just have the money set aside for whether it's permanent signs, whether it's rotating signs, things like that. But I think that's one of those important pieces to educate not only people passing through when they're here for Corn Fest, when they're here for other different initiatives, but it helps to educate everyone else about what's really growing here. I know I didn't realize there were as many crops as there are grown in this region until I really started to work in the field. We're also working with the Agri-Food Hub, so that's the new exhibition building that's being built, to have some kind of permanent display there as well. We're looking at kind of different digital tools that would essentially be kind of like the asset map of all the different businesses that's within like a corridor or a hallway in the new building that's going to have a lot of visitors, a lot of people coming to Lethbridge. So Canada's Premier Food Corridor will also be kind of highlighted and exposed through that new building. And we'll also tie into some of the existing projects that have been ongoing with like highlighting small businesses through videos. We'll do some more videos. We'll utilize marketing dollars to really push those out to increase exposure to them, things like that. And I spoke about investment attraction. So there's a good piece of the budget for attending more events, attending international events, having that coordinator manager, really getting out there, meeting more companies, seeing more opportunities that are available for investment in this region. And then the last piece is kind of a situational analysis of infrastructure capacity. So that will be, an expert to really come in and help us identify where the opportunities for infrastructure expansion may be, what is the existing capacity, what types of investment can we facilitate throughout the region. So that will be a piece that will need to be contracted out to someone who's a bit more of an expert on that. But I think that's an important piece too, because it's one of the biggest questions we get when we talk to companies is, how much water, what's the wastewater capacity, things like that. And traditionally within municipalities, I know for myself for working in them, we have a pretty good idea, but we'd like to really get a deep dive into it and have a really nice document that's, from an engineer, from a consultant that really can pinpoint the numbers so that investors have a good deal of confidence when they're making decisions. And that's important for investors, that they have confidence in what the information they're being presented. Just a kind of a piece on, what are the benefits to Tabor to participate in this project. I think it's a pretty good leverage dollar project for about $5,000 a year. It's unlocking a $1.4 million project that Tabor would be part of. It can free up a bit of time for some of your economic development professionals on their initiatives, that they don't have to focus as much on food and food processing, that there will be, these two dedicated resources that are working for the entire region to support and grow that entire industry. Working together, I think, lifts us all up. I think the Food Corridor project has been one of those that's gained a lot of traction, or attention, I should say, from provincial and federal reps. I know, previous Premier Kenney, when he was here announcing the Highway 3 expansion, mentioned Canada's Premier Food Corridor. There's a conference that's being held in Lethbridge with the college that on the front page now, of the conference, it's about agriculture to water. It says, at the heart of Canada's Premier Food Corridor. So I think it's one of those initiatives that's really shown how municipalities can work together to achieve common goals, and really that that food processing sector is something that's common along Highway 3 here. So for me, it makes a lot of sense. SME capacity development is very important. That's what that industry engagement coordinator person will be really focused on, is helping to grow and expand the existing businesses that are already here. Because investment attraction is important, but you get most of your growth in your community from your existing businesses. So that person will really be focused on helping to support them in conjunction with your existing economic development initiatives. And like I said, the situational analysis will really provide investor confidence levels when we're dealing with investors. So with that, that's kind of a high-level overview of the Food Corridor project. Like I said, I'm here to ask for the 3-year commitment. As I say that, we with Prairies Can potentially looking at, if they approve of it, it would be a 3-year funding commitment. And our Lethbridge City Council had the same question: could we fund for only 1 year and then look at what year 2 and 3 look like? That doesn't really work with the grant we're applying for. It is a 3-year funding commitment. So I just would like to point that out in case council had questions on that. But with that, I'm happy to answer any other further questions or provide clarification on anything.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation, Ben. Appreciate that very much. Councilor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ben, for your presentation. You're employed by Economic Development Lethbridge, correct?
That's correct.
Economic Development Lethbridge is financed by the City Council.
Correct.
Lethbridge. Okay, and I see from the funding formula that you have, that the city contributes 110,000, and the remaining municipalities, 4 of which 5,000 each.
Correct.
For a total of $130,000. Forgive me for being somewhat cynical. Those that get the most money want the most action. What assurance can you give us that we won't be just having the leftovers in our area as opposed to the big city of Lethbridge? Because I've seen it happen before, sir.
No, and fair question. Thank you for the question. And to say one thing, I think, also being the biggest partner, that's where the biggest financial contribution from Lethbridge comes into play, that they have the resources to support further. Where I can say there would be assurances is the memorandum of understanding that will be developed. So when we're doing things like investment attraction, it will be very clearly laid out that this person, when they're meeting with a company, will be, presenting, here's your investment options, which would include Tabor and Eureka Industrial Park, it would be Lethbridge's, it would be whatever's in Coaldale, whatever's in the MD, whatever's in the county. These positions through Canada's Premier Food Corridor work for the region, not just for one municipality. And so that memorandum of understanding would really detail out those details. And like I said, we haven't quite got to that point just because we're still working through the grant application process. But the Canada's Premier Food Corridor initiative has been something that's just been a relationship built on trust. At this point, there really hasn't been an MOU built, but we've, jointly funded projects together that I think have been successful in being a regional approach to supporting us all. And so I think, just based on that is where I would say that there will be the MOU developed. And for activities, even like, hosting events, hosting information sessions, it will be jointly shared. Not everything will be in Lethbridge. There'll be stuff in Tabor, there'll be stuff in Coaldale, there'll be stuff in, Vauxhall, wherever throughout the region. We'll work to make sure it's equitable for everybody.
Right, Councilor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you. A follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Young. I would suggest then, sir, that you change your email address. It says Ben Choose Lethbridge.
Well, and there's the potential for, say, those new employees that, they're Canada's premierfoodcorridor.ca. Right? Yeah.
All right, thank you. Councilor Rudd?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And thanks to Councilor Beckering for that question. I didn't hear anything about any international, so just curious about what that might look like if we can service a market elsewhere. Because I know there have been inquiries in the area in the past from other foreign countries about, can you grow this, can you grow that, and supply this, and so that's interesting. And then is this the ultimate goal, like to Mr. Habiton Pea Soup is going to set up in Tabor, and because we got peas here?
So I think to your first question about, what are the potential for international, that would be part of the budget we have for doing more international travel for the cluster development manager to get out and meet more companies, more organizations across the world, really, that about food processing. We've gotten a lot of inquiries, through different partnerships with, say, Invest Alberta and things like that, that are companies from India, companies from Germany, companies from Netherlands who are looking at doing business here in Alberta, especially advanced food manufacturers who are looking for more ingredient processing. So I think there's certainly a lot of opportunity for international investment, and that is one piece of it. It's also just getting the word out about Southern Alberta, about Canada's Premier Food Corridor as a brand. If I've traveled to international events and I speak to someone from Germany or wherever it may be, they probably maybe not have heard of Alberta, yet alone Lethbridge, yet alone Tabor. So it makes sense to build a brand that is a bit easier for someone to understand that it's Canada's Premier Food Corridor. Once we get their attention and get them looking here, it's a lot easier than to talk specifics about sites that are available and things like that. But and again, I would stress that investment attraction is one piece, but especially when you look at some of the measurements of what we're trying to achieve in this project, a lot of it is going to be more focused on working with the existing companies here to grow and support what they're doing, and then investment kind of comes along with that. If companies here are growing, they're seeing success, they'll reinvest. They'll maybe expand their companies as well. So while investment attraction will certainly be a piece of that, and foreign direct investment is one piece, we'll certainly be working on supporting the local businesses grow. And I can't remember your second question. If you could repeat it.
No, that's good. You kind of crossed.
Oh, okay.
All right, any other questions arising? All right, Ben, I just have a question, I guess clarification maybe more than anything. You're looking to seek out any investors, period, right? Not just local, foreign came up, I think you said also. So
Yeah, so that would be part of the whole overall business development strategies that cluster development manager. If it's local companies investing, that's great. If they meet a company that's looking to set up a food manufacturing, food processing facility here while they're at an event, that's fantastic as well. It'll be business development as a whole. Like I said, with the cluster development manager focusing a bit more on the outside investment attraction, attending events, and then the coordinator here focused on more of the supporting existing businesses.
okay, just to follow up with that, would there be some elaboration on that related to invites from foreign investor possibilities, even just seeking out that option to get that word out? They may, like you say, they may not know much about Canada, know where Alberta is for that matter. So how do we deal with that going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that comes into play with some of the initiatives that we're looking at over the next couple of years of developing. There's one that we just piloted this year with, in conjunction with Exhibition Park and the Whoop Up Days, where we kind of are building almost like a Lethbridge scaled or regional scaled Calgary Investor Stampede Forum. So we invited people from Invest Canada, from Invest Alberta, from different groups to come and do like essentially a food tour while they were in Lethbridge for Whoop Up Days. But this is something that can be replicated for like during Cornfest or things like that, where where they want to maybe go to the parade in the morning if they're an elected official or whoever it may be, do a food tour of some of the companies throughout the afternoon, and then we bring them back for a nice 3-course meal that's developed with the products that they saw, and kind of do it as like an investor forum type of piece. So that is certainly one of the things we're looking at, and I know I saw that the Joint Economic Development Committee is doing a long table dinner.
Right.
So I think we can utilize the resources that are existing, but also build upon what's happening and put those two together. Right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, this is especially so I am on the Joint Economic Development Committee. And this is something that I feel like we have talked about a lot of times, is that this southern Alberta region isn't as well known, and you get, I don't know, it's been brought up before that a lot of investors will go Calgary area rather than come south, and it's just like, well, we have this and we have that, but they just don't really know about it as much. And yeah, so I think that this is a huge opportunity that we really should capitalize on, because it's definitely needed. We could, once that kind of gets out there, then you will see more investment, but also growth, and I think that's really important. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, thanks. We don't want to be sitting on the sidelines. This is big, and you're right, it is big, and we've heard a lot about it over the years. So when it comes to benefits, does the region benefit, or does that particular, when you hand them the package, prospectuses of to where to go and get business or do business, and somebody percolates to the top? Is there any kind of, we're sharing the input, is there going to be any formula to share the output that's going to come from this?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, that's sometimes always a little bit of a trick to measure outcomes or measure impact of, say, an investment. But, I think if you think of it in terms of, say someone who's doing pea fractionation or utilizing a pea product that's maybe being processed in Taber, then that then further benefits the pea producers in the region. And it might then also benefit a trucking company in the region and things like that. So I think we're looking at how to actually measure those outcomes and what it might look like. But, the way I kind of see our economy here in Southern Alberta is that a win for one of us is a win for all of us. If there's a new factory built, whether it's in Taber and Coaldale, they'll draw employees from Taber, from Lethbridge, from Fort Macleod, from Vauxhall, wherever it may be. So I think working together to lift us all up ultimately benefits us all in the end.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Young, I don't want to get too granular here, but the MOU has not been signed, of course. historically, when companies want to come to a certain region, they quite often say, okay, what kind of deal can you give me on the land, infrastructure provision, tax abatements or whatever it might be. Would this particular venture then preclude that, sir, or what's your vision on that?
Yeah, so my vision of that would be that if the cluster development manager got an inquiry, a company's looking for X amount of land, they need this amount of water, they would have the information on hand, but then they would reach out to the teams at each of the municipalities and say, we've got this inquiry. Do you have the infrastructure capacities, land capacities to do it? And then at that point, kind of, we put together the pitch of here are your investment opportunities. You've got this here, and then it wouldn't preclude, say then, if the company says, I'm really interested in the town of Tabor, I want to talk to them, we hand that off to your economic development person, and they deal directly with you. It's kind of they're really trying to get the attention, get someone looking at the region, and then from there, that company can make the decision based on what's best for them in terms of what they're offered, or what the deals are from each of the municipalities and the partners. And again, the MOU will detail out that. That's my vision. We'll be doing that. It's just a matter of getting that process going once we're kind of a bit further along in the grant process.
All right, thank you. Any other questions whatsoever? All right, thank you again, Ben, so much. Yeah. No, thank you again, Ben, so much for your presentation. Very informative and a very great possibilities, I think. Good venture all the way around there, so hopefully they can work out all the way around. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council accepts the proposal from Canada's Premier Food Corridor with a $5,000 per year commitment over 3 years, with $5,000 for 2023 to come from operating reserves and $5,000 for each of 2024 and 2025 to be incorporated into the respective budgets.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we ask the question on the vote, I'd like to have the perspective of administration regarding this project, please.
All right, thank you. Mr. Thibault.
I get to speak for all of us, I guess, do I? Administration, the folks involved, economic development, Mr. Egan, myself, are all of the opinion that this is a low investment dollar to receive a fairly significant benefit in our estimation. Knowing where Ben has come from, you folks know him better than I do as far as working here and at the MD, but I think this is something that even between the MD and ourselves, we were talking about a regional resource, and this seems to kind of hit on that. And administration would be very interested in working out the details of that MOU, because administration does have the same reservations around Lethbridge is large. Lethbridge can offer a lot more and a lot more incentives and a lot more than. So I would like to see how that looks from an equitable perspective. But for that amount of investment, I don't know. I can't think of a downside.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to media inquiries. Mr. Thibault.
I'm going to venture to say there was no media inquiries.
All right, going through the formality. Thank you. All right, moving on to closed session item for open session discussion and or motion requirement. Councillor McLean. That's all right.
Wrong button. Thank you. I move that council directs administration to add the roads and walks operator 1 position in the amount of $82,302.69 and the additional funding from the AESO in the amount of $84,536.95 to the 2023 operating budget.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Just need a motion to close the meeting. Councillor Firth.
I move that we close the meeting.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.